I remember very well the first meeting with Yannick, the director of Spark, at a very nice Café de Ponteneur in Amsterdam, talking about Syria. The time was, at that time, the perspectives were better. And it's always good to be in Amsterdam, which I consider my hometown. And mijn Mokom's paradijs, and it is nicer than Paradise. But unfortunately, I will talk about Syria, a very sad story. The two cities, Aleppo and Damascus, going through very difficult times, not comparable to the situation like Amsterdam. I remember very well how this started actually early 2011, when thousands of Syrians suffered actually from social injustice, from the security situation, from the harshness of living under dictatorship, who started to demand very basic rights, some reforms, some transparency, and get rid of monopoly, clientelism, rent-seeking. After a lot of economic measures that had been taken by the son of Hafez al-Assad, who is actually the current dictator, where the subsidies of fuel were cut down and the increases of salaries of public administrators, but the normal people, farmers, merchants, they suffered a lot from this social injustice. And they were presenting the idea of social economy in Syria, while every law was, before going to the parliament, was going to a small group of people who were adding new things to it to increase the level of monopoly and rent-seeking, which was not going to the budget of the country at that time. In 2011, the regime did very important decisions. The first one was actually capturing around 3,000 activists, who were actually the activists who did their best right from the beginning to keep this uprising a peaceful uprising. And what this regime also did was releasing hundreds of jihadis who were actually used by this regime to create terrorist groups and to attack Americans in the neighboring country, Iraq. And in the meantime, the regime increased the level of violence and attacks on cities by using heavy weapons. So this was a clear attempt to take the population into a new era, which is actually violence against violence, and this area where the regime is actually much more experienced. And right now, we are in a very, very strange, very dangerous situation. The entire region is shaking. The spillover effect is huge. Countries in the region are right now shaking economically, security-wise, and in all other dimensions. We were telling actually our friends, diplomats and everyone, you have to get engaged in it. Don't send troops, but end this misery, put pressure at the UN Council, UN Security Council. You have to take a decision, otherwise new players will emerge and we will face a situation where no one actually can solve the problem anymore. The mistakes by the opposition as well, when they were forced actually to use violence against violence, is that they thought when we actually get control over a city or a town, then our job is done. No, people will be happy about 1 week of freedom, but then lack of provision of essential services, no security, people will start to think, yeah, I fought against dictatorship, but right now I have nothing. I have no electricity, I have no water, and the regime intensified actually the attacks by barrel bombs on rows of people trying to buy bread, on electricity centrals, on water pump stations, just to show the people it's me or cows and destruction. I remember very well when the international community representatives were on one side of the road and the Syrian opposition on the other side, shouting to each other. The Syrian side was telling, why don't you support us? And the other side was telling, you don't have a mechanism to support you. We have our tax money payers. We cannot just give you cash. And the problem is the UN was not engaged in this conflict. The opposition was recognized politically, not legally. So the seat at the UN was still actually in the position, the seat was still belonged to the Assad regime. We managed to create a new mechanism, which is the Syria Recovery Trust Fund, by a German development bank. The German development bank took the role of World Bank and the UN by establishing this mechanism where countries do not trust the checks and balances of the implementer. They put the money into that bank account, and then there is a mechanism comparable to the UN trust funds and comparable to the World Bank trust funds. We managed to do that. Right now there is 88 million euros in that account, which is nothing, but it is what it is. And the Syrian Interim Government started late 2013. The idea was to have around 500 civil servants based in a neighboring country and a few thousand people inside Syria, to not reinvent the wheel, but to try to re-establish, to reactivate those civil service entities. So just to fix the institution. And there are thousands of Syrians, well educated. The country counts 1.2 million civil servants. So only in the areas actually where the opposition is actually controlling more than 300,000 to 500,000 employees. We succeeded here and there, but the budget that we needed was around 2.2 billion US dollars actually to get this done. And we didn't have actually more than 10% of that. But we managed to do some work with that. The problem is, I will just give you an example, and later on I will try to give you, to show you a video footages about this experiment. You don't have actually the money to run the country in those areas very well, especially in a country where there is ongoing war. So we focused on some areas that you can support the local economy as a first step, and you can enter in the process of supporting people in big scale. So we rehabilitated the Syrian public establishment of grain, which counts actually 3 subsidiaries: the Syrian Public Company of Mills, the Syrian Public Company of Bakeries, and the Syrian Public Company of Storage and Distribution of Wheat. And we managed to open 14 centers inside Syria and to buy from local farmers around 20,000 tons of wheat. Right now we are distributing that wheat as a seed for next year's plantation, for this year's planting. We are talking about a sector that covers 35 to 40% of the Syrian GDP, about a country that used to produce 4 million tons of wheat, was exporting that, and 2014's production of wheat was 1 million, less than 1 million. So a drop of more than 75%. And those areas are mainly controlled by ISIS, the terrorist group ISIS. So the population right now is in great need. What we did after having established this institution is ask our friends to give us wheat in kind. Imagine if you buy the wheat from the farmers, you give them cash, they go home, exactly, they do their planning. And you know, we have this national contest actually here in the Netherlands, and always farmers are winning because they are good, very good in calculating, right? And the farmers are by nature very clever people. So they take that money, they put it aside, they have the seed for next year, they have fertilizers. So we covered that. So we believe next year's harvest may be good, may be better than this year. But People will die if we don't give them actually bread, and more people will come to Turkey and to other neighboring countries. So when public institutions actually enter, especially in this very, very difficult situation, when Westerners are kidnapped and when people are kidnapped inside Syria, the only possibility is for a strong partner actually to enter and to try to at least give you the opportunity to work with them and to provide to the Syrian people. I mean, the problem is not in rehabilitating those institutions. Our people working at those institutions, they hear from the walkie-talkie, a plane is coming, and they talk to each other. They will bombard actually our wheat center. Imagine you are at your work, and every day you hear a barrel bomb will be dropped at our office. Then they run. They watch the sky. They see the barrel bomb actually dropped, sometimes close to the center, sometimes damaging few tons actually of the wheat. And then they go back and resume their work. In this situation, the only possibility is to give guarantee and to have some safe zones, like what happened actually in Kosovo, like what happened actually in the northern part of Iraq. Without that, the spillover of what's going right now on in ISIS areas is very dangerous. We are dealing, it's not anymore the problem of Syrians, it's the problem of the entire world. People right from the Netherlands are going there actually to fight with the jihadis from Germany, from the United States, from everywhere. The entrepreneurship, I don't have to talk to you and to convince you how good the Syrians are in this. The Damascus, with hundreds actually of businessmen, families that are in the business for more than hundreds of years, producing goods in Damascus and also in the Damascus suburb areas, but also Aleppo on the Silk Road for more than thousands of years, actually being very at the center of production and industry. Each city having more than one industrial area. The businessmen fled the country. Billions of dollars are right now actually outside of the country. Fabrics, companies being looted. All the equipments are actually stolen. The production dropped by 80%. The country is in total collapse right now. The 15 billion US dollar on the at the central bank of Syria evaporated. An increase of inflation by more than 300%. But are we going to watch it actually till the situation go actually worse and worse? No. I believe initiatives like what Spark did by having 97 young people, entrepreneurs, to Gaziantep, and 16 of them right now are working for my ministry as monitoring and evaluation people, because countries cannot enter and see what is going on with their projects. Those guys actually sending us pictures. If we pay for an electricity generator, they send us exactly that's arrived at that area, that it's paid. And what they always say when you talk to them about entrepreneurship, things like solar system, to have energy, essential services. It remains essential services. We cannot convince them actually to open right now production in areas where there is actually no security. Don't wait until the time is ready. Build your contacts. Come to Turkey, talk to Syrian locals, know your partner, and do it actually through Spark, which have actually a very good network. And for the coming period, I and my colleague will be there. We will be very, very glad to support you if there are any ideas and you would like actually to present. I think my time is up. I cannot talk more actually about my experience actually regarding Syrian case. There is a video about this huge wheat project. If you would like to see it, you can contact our friends at Spark. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here, and we need your support. Thank you.